Welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Pastor Rick Utze from Maranatha Community Fellowship in Plain City, Ohio. Researchers have found what they think may be a new organ in the body. And this really fascinates me. How could they have done all this research with all the technology they have, with all the MRIs and all that, and they think they may have found a new organ in the body? I mean, like, how complex is this body that God created? And so what they think they found is these fluid-filled chambers that line the tissues of the organs and the muscles, and they call them shock absorbers that allow our organs, our muscles to swell and compress, and it allows that function to happen without damaging the organs. And they haven't been able to see this before, because normally when they cut through tissue, it says the fluid comes out and it looks just like and it collapses and it looks just like dense tissue. And so it just fascinates me. They have this new imaging technology that they were using on something else, and they happen to see these fluid sacs in the linings of all the tissues. And it's just fascinating what happens in science and what happens when they look at God's creation. And so, but God also sees something that we don't see as humans a lot of times. And it says in 1 Samuel 16:7, this is talking about when Samuel was going looking to anoint a new king because God was very dissatisfied with Saul. It says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, 'Do not look at his appearance or his stature, because I have rejected him. Humans do not see what the Lord sees, for humans see what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart.'" See, the Lord looks at the spiritual organ, the heart. He doesn't just look at the outside. And so David's older brother is the first one they went to. And then they went down the line of like 7 sons. And Samuel's like, "None of these are it. Do you have any other sons?" And they said, "Well, yeah, there's the youngest one. He's out in the field watching the sheep." And so God used David in spectacular ways. I mean, the youngest was anointed as king. God looks at the heart of man. And that doesn't mean we're perfect, because David messed up big time, right? I mean, he, compared to the failures that we see today in a lot of people, he messed up just as bad. And one of the things that we can see from all the news that we have is that character will carry you farther than competency. I mean, there are people that are competent leaders, right, that have failed miserably in their character, and things have come out and they've had to resign or they're fired. And it's not just in politics, in the media, it's in the church. I mean, so God sees the heart. He cares about the heart. He cares about what's inside of us. And so even if we mess up, though, see, there's good news. A lot of us are thinking, well, wait a minute, God knows everything. He sees my heart. He sees what's inside. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Yeah, we probably are in trouble, right? Because we do sin and we're not perfect. But the good news is that God's made a way to take care of our sin problem. God's made a way that even in David, when he confessed his sin, because he used someone who was bold enough to come up and speak into his heart, saying, "Look, David, what's in your heart?" And David confessed to God the sin that he had. He still faced consequences, but he was a man after God's own heart. It says in 2 Corinthians 5:21, "He made the one who did not know sin," so that means God's talking about Jesus Christ, "to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." You see, Jesus Christ came and lived the life that we couldn't live. He was perfect. He knew no sin, but he was made sin on the cross for you and me, so that God, when he looks at us, he looks through the lens of Jesus Christ's blood, and we are washed clean. And so God does care about our character. It says in 2 Peter 1 that he cares about faith and goodness and knowledge and self-control, endurance, godliness, brotherly affection, and love. And it says that if you aren't growing in these things, there's a reason. It's because you have forgotten the cleansing from your past sins. And so God wants us to see the gospel of Jesus Christ. He wants us to see the death and resurrection. Never forget it. Never forget the love of Christ. That's the bottom line. He first loved us. And if we aren't growing in him, if our character isn't becoming more like Jesus Christ, it means we've forgotten what he's done for us. We've forgotten his death. We've forgotten the resurrection that we just celebrated at Easter. We've forgotten his love. So let's, as we go through this week, remember the love of Jesus Christ, and it will cause us to, out of that love, motivate us to live a life that's pleasing to Him. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Bottom Line.